Cindy here, author at Growing Your Business Through Referrals. And today we have Dusty and Lisa talking about BNI.
Hello, Dr. Lisa.
Hey, Dusty. How's it going?
Good. As you know, we're here just to have a chat about the benefits of BNI and our experiences. And why don't you give us a little something to get the talk going, and I'll jump right in.
Okay. Well, I think I've been a part of BNI for 5 years now, I think. Yeah. And I actually got approached by Dr. Gilda Banta, who was the club soccer coach for my son, like 20 years ago or something crazy like that. And I had a business that I started while I was working as a surgeon. And so she goes, well, what are you doing on these days? How are you going to spread the word? And I had never heard about networking. I didn't feel like I needed to do networking just because as a surgeon, people come to you because they have their health insurance, and that's why they come to you. And they also, what's word of mouth too. But yeah, so I joined BNI as a result because I like Dr. Gilda. I like the group. I'm part of the BNI Power Alliance, which you are as well, in Huntington Beach. It's a really nice group of people. And I found that's really interesting. I don't necessarily like the word networking per se, because it kind of has a negative connotation. I like the idea of just getting to know people, having a relationship with people, because it's my integrity on the line. If I refer to somebody and they don't call, they don't follow up, I don't want to hear from somebody saying, gosh, you referred Dusty and Dusty doesn't follow up, or he doesn't answer his phone. I feel bad because that's my integrity as well. So yeah, I joined BNI and I love it. It's been 5 years or so. I have a little story to tell today. I got this email from somebody that I had done a one-to-one probably about 3 years ago or so. I recognized the name. And she had reached out and said, hey, I was looking in the BNI chapter directory and I was looking for somebody that was with olive tree people, and your name came up. And I said, yeah. I said, but I do remember meeting you 3 years ago. So we've set up a one-to-one to talk about, kind of renew and talk about her business again, and also about olive tree people too. So there you go.
Great story. And I tell you, it really rang true when you brought up that word networking. I think that's almost a little bit old school because, we go to our meetings. Some of them are Zoom, some of them are in person. I don't think today is my networking day. I think, hey, today is I'm going to meet with my friends at my BNI chapter. And I remember when you joined, I was there before you. I remember when Gilda joined. And I think it's very interesting. Just a couple of weeks ago, Gilda looked around. I wish I'd written down the number, but she looked around and said, I'm so happy with all of you. You're all my friends. And I don't remember, but it was about 75% of the room. She said, you are all my patients and help my business. And I thought it was interesting and she also said, and your family. So again, when you get one of us, you typically will get the family. But I think what's really neat is every BNI chapter is different. I started in a different one and changed only because of location. This one was closer to my house. They all have their own characteristics and personality. And the one thing that I will say, I always just laugh that when we ask comments at the end from our guests, what did you think of our meeting? They almost say, you don't seem like a bunch of individuals. You seem like a bunch of friends, like that you all know each other and do things. And they don't know that we have potlucks at our houses every now and then, that we actually go out and we go out for a happy hour. And I tell you, I think I brought in 7 existing members in our chapter. And the interesting thing is the ones that I brought in usually don't start going to the network at night meetings and our mixers and that, just for whatever reasons. I encourage them because me personally, I have found that I get just as many leads over a drink or a pizza as I do in our formal meetings that we have. So it's very common for just having a chat about life, about what's new in your world, where someone says, hey, I'm glad we're having this chat. I just ran into X, my family member, whatever, they need a loan. So, the little things like that. And again, I go to the happy hours because I like the people. I'm social. We're like-minded people. but it is so cool to come home and think, hey, I went out for fun, came back with something to work on. So that's another byproduct of the BNI way they work and everything.
I agree. I agree with that. I consider my Tuesday mornings, we meet at 7:15 in the morning. That's sort of my BNI family time. And it's something I look forward to find out what everybody's doing. And then the happy hours and the get-togethers and the one-to-ones that we schedule, we find out we care about each other. We care about people's lives. We care about if something happens in someone's life that maybe isn't so favorable. We're there as a family to help surround them and lift them up as well. So it isn't just business that's passed. I
Yeah.
think it's just feeling like there's family, definitely,
Yeah.
and it's really interesting because it is about being front of mind too. I know a lot of people say, well, why do we have to meet once a week? Well, it really just keeps people front of mind, and the knowledge that I've learned about, let's say, mortgage from you, or like, for instance, trust lawyer, or finance, or whoever happens to be in our group. I've learned so much information that I would not normally have learned unless I looked it up, which I probably wouldn't unless it crossed something in my life that I needed it for. But it does definitely feed your brain because you learn a lot about a lot of different occupations.
The other thing that I like, and I'll just use an example. This was pretty funny. I've got a friend in our chapter who I have known literally my entire life. He is our group's handyman contractor. As an example, last week I was on a phone call taking an application with a gentleman who's buying a triplex. The unit that he's looking at needs an awful lot of work. I know it because I've seen the property, and he knows it. And we were talking about it, and he said it's going to need a lot of work. That's why I made this offer on it and that. And I just happened to ask him, I said, well, you must be pretty darn handy if you're taking on 3 units knowing the work that's done. And he kind of laughed and says, I can do some of the stuff. He goes, but man, I am going to need a good contractor or a handyman because there's so much that needs to be done. So I was sitting there thinking about, hey, I know a handyman. He's a friend of mine. He's a BNI member. And so I just said, hey, are you actually at the point where you're looking for one? And he said, absolutely. I said, can I recommend one to you? And he says, that would be so helpful because I would not know where to start. And it was great because his next question was, how do you know this guy and how long have you known him? At that point, I started laughing and said, I don't know if I should tell you this because it will disclose my age. And he laughed at that and he says, well, is he your brother? And it was funny. I laughed. I said, no, he's a lifelong friend. I said, I'll tell you that, and I'll put you in contact with him. I think you'll like him, but ask him for references because he'll have a bunch of them, and I'll be a reference because he's done work on my house, which was pretty funny because he goes, well, if he was good enough for your house, then it sounds like someone I might at least consider. Can you have him please call me? So the leads come around in my day-to-day life. It's funny. I think, like you say, network. A lot of people think we're out there going, do you need a skincare person? Do you need a dentist? Do you need a lawyer? We don't do that. It's just in our day-to-day business and conversations. Again, in business with your friends and regular people, it comes up. They tell you what's going on in their lives. I've had people that have said, I'm in the process of getting divorced. And we've had divorce attorneys in our group. And that just leads to, oh, well, do you have a divorce attorney? And I had a situation where the gentleman I was dealing with was refinancing because he was getting a divorce. Mm-hmm. And his comment was, I do not. My soon-to-be ex-wife does, but I don't. And he says, you know somebody. So it just comes up intrinsically in our day-to-day workings. And I love that point you brought up. We don't really network. We go in, see how each other's weeks were, and our normal day-to-day lives uncover leads for all of us.
Absolutely, 100%. It's relationship, just having relationships with each other. Yeah, for sure. I love that story, and I know your friend James has done some wonderful work for one of my girlfriends as well, and she just rants and raves about him. He's amazing.
Yeah. I think what's good is you're not going to recommend, you brought it up earlier, I would never recommend somebody that I didn't believe does nothing but great work. at value. You know, we don't want people who are in gouging people, and that just doesn't happen. The people we allow in our group are just like us, and we verify that they do great work. And the biggest compliments I get, I've had where after they've done their work, their service, what have you, I've gotten calls from customers of mine thanking me just for referring that person. And all that does is strengthen your relationship and your value with your customer.
Absolutely.